My wife's long-running affair with my so-called friend came crashing down the moment I caught her red-handed. I didn't scream or fight. I simply printed out every last one of their secret messages and handed copies to our families, friends, and even his fiancée. The looks on their faces when the truth spilled out? Priceless. Their little fantasy ended in public disgrace, and I walked away without looking back. That my wife, Mia, 26F, cheated on me, 27M, with a friend of mine, Jack, 27M. To give you some backstory, Mia and I met when I was 22 at a friend's wedding. She was a close friend of the bride, while I knew the groom. We were seated at the same table, probably so we'd hit it off. When I first saw her, I was completely captivated by her beauty. Once we started talking, it turned out we had a lot in common, and we just clicked. We chatted throughout dinner, then hit the dance floor, where we danced and drank the night away. At some point, we ended up kissing right there on the dance floor. As we pulled away, the bride and groom approached, grinning and asking what was going on between us. We just shrugged it off and continued enjoying the night. We didn't exchange numbers when we left, but about a week later, Mia texted me, asking, "Meow." Turns out the bride had given her my number. I was more than happy to say yes, and that's how our relationship began. Things were great overall, just a few minor arguments, nothing serious. About 2 years into dating, I proposed, and less than a year later, we got married. We had been married for just over a year when everything came crashing down. Just before our first anniversary, I started noticing changes. Mia became more protective of her phone, started going out for girls' nights more often, and our intimacy almost disappeared. I tried talking to her about it a few times, but she brushed me off, saying I was just being insecure. It felt like nothing I said mattered, and that made me grow colder and more distant. I stopped kissing her goodbye before work, and unless it was important, we barely spoke. One night, while she was asleep, I decided to check her phone and laptop, but I found nothing suspicious. Remembering stories I'd read online, I decided to check her car. I found a second phone hidden inside. That's when I knew. I wanted to gather all the evidence before confronting her, so I took the phone and went through every message and photo. There was only one number saved, Jack's. I printed everything out, spent the night looking up divorce lawyers, and found one I liked. Since it was a Saturday, I sent him an email and planned to call on Monday. I needed to know for sure that it was Jack, so I typed his number into my phone, intending to call and pretend I was from Spectrum. As soon as his contact info popped up, I lost it. I started yelling in my office, and Mia came in to see what was going on. I just shouted at her to get out. It was the first time I'd ever raised my voice at her. Later, I called my friend Ted, the groom from the wedding where I met Mia, and asked if he'd meet me for a drink. He could tell from my voice that something was really wrong. At the bar, I didn't hold back. I told him everything, how Mia cheated with Jack. Ted was visibly upset since he had introduced me to Jack. He apologized repeatedly, feeling guilty for bringing Jack into my life. I asked him not to tell anyone since I hadn't confronted Mia yet or spoken to a lawyer. After a night of drinking and talking, I took an Uber home around 3 a.m. When I finally checked my phone, I saw countless missed calls and texts from Mia, asking where I was and if I was okay. When I got home, she was asleep on the couch, but I just went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to find Mia in bed beside me. I got dressed and left for work without saying much. At the office, I buried myself in work until late. When I got home around 10 p.m., Mia greeted me with dinner, asking if I wanted it reheated. I declined and went straight to bed. She followed me, asking what was wrong, but I just told her to leave me alone. Eventually, I snapped and shouted at her to stop bothering me. The next day, I received an email from the lawyer confirming our meeting. When I left the office, I told my assistant I'd be out for lunch with a client, just in case Mia called to check on me. At the lawyer's office, I handed over all the evidence. He reassured me that since we lived in a false state, Mia wouldn't be entitled to most of my assets. I didn't even care about that at the time. My main focus was just getting out of this marriage. After finalizing the plan with the lawyer, I went home to confront Mia. When I got there, she wasn't home, so I called and texted her, saying I didn't care if she was with Jack, I needed her home now. She called back, confused, and I demanded she come home immediately. When she finally arrived, I pointed out how quickly she got home, noting that it took about 15 minutes, the same distance from Jack's place. She tried to play dumb, but I didn't let up. I showed her the evidence, one piece at a time, while she kept trying to gaslight and insult me. Finally, when the reality hit her, she started crying and apologizing, saying she loved me. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "What happened to all that energy you had before? Just a minute ago, you were so confident while degrading and insulting me." She tried to hug me, apologizing over and over. I put my hand up and said, "Don't touch me." She said, "Let's go to the bedroom and do whatever you want." I stared her down and said, "Sweetheart, I will never touch you again. You want to know who else has these photos and messages? My lawyer. I'm divorcing you. Now, get a bag, pack your things, and get the hell out of my house." That was 3 days ago. Haven't heard from her since. Sorry for the long post and any typos. Just curious for those who've been where I am. What can I expect from here? Thanks for reading. Update 1. After I posted the first part, you all gave me tons of advice, so I took most of it. This morning, I started to do some damage control. I scheduled an appointment with my doctor for STD testing. That's in 2 days. Then, I reached out to people close to me, my dad and a few friends. They've been really supportive, offering advice and asking if I need help. But I told them I had it under control. Next, I contacted her family. I texted her parents, thanking them for welcoming me into their family and saying I was grateful for everything they did for me. But Mia and I were getting divorced. I also mentioned that I'd missed them. Not really, they were suffocating. But I was being polite. I said they could reach out with any questions. I didn't hear back for a while, so I texted Mia's sister. This one hurt. We were close, and I knew this would mess up our friendship. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry to text you like this, but Mia and I are getting divorced. I just wanted to thank you for always treating me like a brother. I'll still be around if you ever need anything." Right after that, her parents finally responded, "Parents, we're so sorry to hear this. What happened? Why hasn't Mia said anything to us?" Mia's been in at least a year-long affair. I think it started before our wedding. I suggest you call her. She left the house, so I assumed she went to you. Parents, no, we haven't heard from her. We'll call her. Are you sure she was cheating? Positive. I found texts and photos. Parents, we're so sorry she did that. We'll try to reach her. After dealing with her family, I reached out to Jack's fiancé. I don't think I mentioned before that he's engaged. I thought Mia and Jack would have cooked up some master plan to cover it up, but either they didn't know I found out, or they're just idiots. I asked Jack's fiancé to meet for coffee. She agreed immediately. When we met, I just said it bluntly. Jack's been cheating on you with my wife. It's been going on for over a year. She was shocked. I showed her the evidence. A binder full of messages and pictures. She just skimmed through it and started silently crying. I told her she could keep it, use it however she wanted. She thanked me, stood up, and walked away looking completely shattered. I know you all told me to stay sober and keep a clear head, but my world just fell apart. I'm giving myself a week to sit on the porch, drink, smoke cigars, and blast music. After that, I'll pull myself together and get back to my usual routine. On a positive note, I've packed up most of Mia's stuff, clothes, jewelry, wedding book, and every photo with her in it. All boxed up and ready for her to pick up. I didn't destroy anything except a few picture frames. If she shows up, I don't want her here any longer than necessary. As of now, my lawyer's working hard, my doctor's appointment is set, and 90% of her things are packed. If she stays out of my hair, this could be the smoothest divorce ever. Thanks for reading, and as always, advice is appreciated. Update 2. Sorry for going silent. I've been drinking a lot since the last post. This is the first semi-sober moment I've had since everything happened, and I still feel numb. After notifying everyone, the only person who didn't respond was Mia's sister, Emma. We were close, so it stung. The night I posted the last update, I drank myself to sleep on the back porch. Woke up to the smell of breakfast cooking. My first thought was, oh great, Mia's back and thinks breakfast is going to fix this. I jumped up, ready to explode. But it wasn't Mia, it was Emma. Emma saw I was awake and rushed over to hug me. She didn't say much, just held my hand and sat me down at the table. While I ate, she apologized and told me Mia had shown up at her place, saying we were just having a rough patch and everything would be fine. When Emma got my text about the divorce, she asked Mia why. That's when Mia broke down and told her everything. I told Emma there was no way Mia had told her everything and proceeded to lay it all out. the texts, the photos, the timeline. Emma said Mia told her it was a one-time thing and that I was blowing it out of proportion. I told Emma I had no plans of getting back with Mia, and if that's why she was here, she was wasting her time. Emma laughed and said, "I'm not here for her. I'm here for you." She said we were friends, and she wasn't going to abandon me just because her sister screwed up. That hit me hard. I hugged her. I was so relieved our friendship wasn't over. Emma stayed for 2 days in the guest room and left this morning. Before she left, she asked if she could come with me to the cabin. I told her she should probably go check on Mia. She agreed, hugged me, and left. Before anyone says she's into me, she's not. She's 20, way too young for me. It's just a solid friendship. Almost forgot, I went to the doctor, got tested, and the results will be in on Monday. I've reached out to Jack's fiancée a few times to check on her. She says she's fine, but doesn't know what to do. I told her I'd be there to listen anytime she needs. Thank you all for reading and for all the support. You've been a light in a really dark time. If you're going through something like this, just take it step by step. Set goals, stay focused, and give yourself time to process. Thanks again, and sorry for the long updates. I told you all about Emma staying over for a few days. She left right before I headed out to my cabin for a hunting trip. Good news, I got a nice, fat 8-point buck on my first day, which was great because it left me the rest of the time to fish. I only caught 2, but they were decent size. I cooked one for dinner and butchered the other. The rest of my stay, I spent cleaning the deer and soaking in the nature around me. Aside from a drink or 2 a day, I kept my promise to stay sober. Last week was the exception, and I meant it. Now, on to the past few days. My doctor called, and I'm all clear. Not a big surprise since Mia and I haven't had much of a sex life for months now, but you can never be too sure. I reached out to Jack's fiancée, but didn't hear back for a while. When she finally responded, she said she was staying with her family. She didn't go into much detail, but the fact that she's with her family pretty much says it all. At least she's somewhere safe, surrounded by people who can support her. I told her that if she needed anything, she could always reach out. The next day, she asked to meet for coffee, and I agreed. We met at the same pretentious hipster coffee shop and talked for about 2 hours. She wanted to know what I planned to do, whether I was going to divorce Mia or try to reconcile. I told her straight up that, for me, cheating is a deal breaker. The level of disrespect and selfishness it takes to cheat, especially for a year, shows she never really cared about me. I asked what her plan was, and she said she was confused. Everything she thought was true turned out to be a lie, and she had no idea what her next move should be. Her family was urging her to forgive Jack and go through with the wedding. I told her bluntly, just because that's what your family wants doesn't mean it's what you have to do. Jack obviously doesn't respect marriage. He cheated on her with my wife. If that doesn't show he's not marriage material, I don't know what does. I told her to follow her gut, not her heart or her brain, because those will lie to you, but your gut usually doesn't. I said when I first found out, I tried to find some way to forgive Mia, but I just couldn't do it. I bet when she went to stay with her family, she already had a pretty good idea of what she wanted to do, but she let too many people in, and now everyone's opinions are clouding her judgment. She thanked me for talking to her, and we said our goodbyes. The next day, my lawyer called to tell me Mia had been successfully served at work. I thanked him for working so quickly. Not long after, Emma called and said Mia hadn't left her room all day and was sobbing in bed. I told her Mia was served and was probably starting to realize just how badly she screwed up. Emma asked about the cabin, and I filled her in on everything. The buck, the fishing, the peace and quiet. We chatted for a bit, and then I hung up to prepare myself and the house for what I was sure would be Mia's explosion. I told my friend, and he agreed to come over if Mia showed up, just to be a witness in case things got out of hand. I sat around waiting, biding my time, knowing it was only a matter of when, not if. About an hour after I posted my last update, Mia showed up at the house, pounding on the door and screaming for me to let her in. I immediately called my friend and Emma to get over here. Mia was shouting every name in the book, calling me heartless and banging so hard I thought she'd break the door down. But the entire time, I just stood there laughing. My friend showed up, and his wife came too, Mia's friend. She got out of the truck and tried to calm Mia down, wrapping her arms around her and talking to her. Mia responded by slapping her across the face, screaming at her to mind her own business. My friend, who was recording the whole thing on his phone, immediately called the cops. When the police arrived, Mia tried to play the victim. She ran up to one of the officers and started crying, saying I hit her and threw her out of the house. My friend and his wife backed me up, telling the cops that when they got there, Mia was already banging on the door and screaming. The officer came to my door, and the moment I opened it, Mia started yelling. There he is. He hit me. I want him arrested. The officer started to cuff me, but I told him I could prove she was lying. I asked to grab my phone and showed him the footage from the security cameras. After watching the video, the officer apologized for jumping to conclusions. He said they'd already had 15 calls from my neighbors, and since Mia was screaming that I hit her, they assumed it was true. After dealing with the cops for about half an hour, Mia was finally put in cuffs and charged with disturbing the peace, public intoxication, and DUI. As they put her in the car, Emma showed up and rushed over to me, asking what had happened. I showed her the footage, and then the officer came over to hand me the case number and some paperwork. Emma started asking about the charges, but all I could do was shake my head. It's crazy how fast things can go from bad to worse. Now I'm just sitting here, trying to process it all. I went back inside, and Emma followed shortly after, sitting down next to me. She said she'd only left her house for 10 minutes to run to the store, but when she got back, Mia was no longer in the living room. Emma assumed Mia had gone to bed after drinking too much wine. We talked for a while, and Emma asked if she could stay the night. I told her she was always welcome. She then mentioned that Mia had spent the night in jail, though she didn't know why, but said they could bail her out in the morning. Emma told me that after I went back inside, she called her parents to explain what was happening and see if they could help bail me out because Emma doesn't have that kind of money. We shared a beer and then went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, Emma had already left to meet with her parents. I hadn't heard from Mia, Emma, or their parents, but I knew it wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. Update 5. I haven't heard from Mia since that night, but my lawyer was contacted by hers, letting him know he'd be representing Mia. Finally, the process can begin. I reached out to Jack's fiancée to see if she had any updates. We only texted back and forth, but she told me she'd kicked Jack out of her house. Her father and brother packed up his things and dropped them off at Jack's place. She said her dad and brother wanted to beat him, but she asked them not to, saying she just wants to move on. She thanked me for checking in on her and said her close friends were supporting her. I sent her a link to my Reddit page so she could see the support you all have given to both of us. On Friday, as soon as I got off work, I rushed home to head back to my cabin for the weekend. When I arrived, Emma was in my driveway. She wanted to pick up her sister's things and had a list of what Mia expected. I skimmed through it, and everything but one item was already packed in boxes or sitting in the garage, ready to be picked up. I told her I wasn't touching anything. I wasn't going to risk Mia claiming I destroyed her stuff. I offered to pay for a moving company to pack and take everything instead because I was leaving for my cabin and didn't have the time to deal with Mia's nonsense. Emma said that sounded fine and hoped I'd have a good time. She put a box of Mia's clothes in her car and then turned to me, asking if she could tag along. I told her to drop off the box and pack a bag. By the time I'd gone to the store and packed up my truck, she was back. We locked up the house and headed to the cabin together. The weekend was great. Last time I was there, I realized how much of a hidden gem that place is. The view is incredible, and it's so secluded that I can truly breathe and relax without dealing with anyone. On Monday, I called a moving company. By Tuesday, 3 movers showed up in a big truck and started loading everything up. I opened each box, recorded the contents, and took pictures of every piece of furniture as it was loaded. I tipped the movers $50 each for their patience and sent all the recordings and pictures to my lawyer. The house feels empty but cleaner without her stuff here. When I started this process, my lawyer advised me not to get rid of anything that could be considered shared property, so I put most of the furniture in storage. Since she left, I've been sleeping in the guest room. Now that her stuff is out, I've started buying new furniture, but for now, most of it will stay in the garage. I don't plan on keeping the house, even if I win it in the divorce. 2. Many bad memories. Update 6. It's been a while since I last posted. I coach high school baseball, so between the divorce, dealing with Mia, and coaching, I've had zero free time. A lot has happened, so this might be long, so bear with me. A few days after the movers took Mia's things, my lawyer received paperwork claiming I damaged her property and demanding $1,500 in compensation. If I didn't pay, she'd take me to court. My lawyer sent hers all the videos and pictures, asking them to pinpoint exactly where the alleged damage was. He said this only proves how unhinged she is, and that while it's a hassle now, it will be perfect evidence in court. Apparently, her lawyer wasn't ready for how meticulous I've been. I've documented everything. I read so many horror stories on Reddit about ex-spouses making false claims, and I refuse to be another statistic. I prepared for every possible accusation. Mia has been calling me every other day, but I don't pick up. If she leaves a voicemail, I forward it to my lawyer, without listening to it. Each time, he tells me, "You're a lawyer's dream. You listen, you document, you're doing everything right." He says that every time, and every time, it makes me feel just a little better. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, my lawyer said we had enough evidence to bury her outside of court. He suggested we try settling first to show we made an effort. We scheduled a meeting at a neutral lawyer's office. When we arrived, Mia was already there with her lawyer. We sat down, and her lawyer asked what we had to offer. Mine scoffed and said, "With the mountain of evidence we have, the only offer is half the house's sale price and half the savings account. That's more than any judge would award." He looked straight at Mia and said, "If you take this to court, I will make you read every message out loud. I will show every photo to everyone in the courtroom. I will ask you to describe, in detail, what's happening in each one. Then, I will bring up your recent charges and play the video from that night." Mia started to cry, asking me if there was anything she could do to make things right. I said, "You cheated on me since before the wedding. There's nothing you can do to make me forget or forgive. Sign the papers. It's more than you deserve, and I want to be done with the mess you created." She sobbed for 15 minutes and had to excuse herself to the restroom. When she returned, she was still crying but signed the papers and left. So, in about a month, everything will be finalized. After that, all I have left to do is sell the house and finally move on. Thanks for reading and for all the advice you've given me. I don't expect anything else to happen, but if it does, I'll let you know. Otherwise, this is probably my last update. Thanks again.